Hello, friends, how are you? Let us continue learning the first chapter of TSC Second Paper today as well. So, today it is our time to learn about speaking, to discuss speaking as the second oral skill. So, the first chapter is teaching and testing oral skills in language function. Yesterday we discussed about listening in general, and today we shall discuss about speaking. So speaking is another important oral skill as it is involved directly in communication. So, and what is a language function? Yesterday I didn't tell about the language function. Language function refers to the purpose for which any language is used. The purpose of using the language is called language function. Like, what do we use the languages for? We use language for requesting, we use language for asking and seeking permission, for so many reasons, for greeting. So that will be discussed later in detail, but for now we shall be talking about speaking. Teaching speaking skill. Teaching speaking skill, okay? Teaching speaking skill or teaching speaking. As I already said, this is also a important oral skill. It is also a primary skill, and it is also known as productive skill because we produce the language in this one. We produce the language. Whatever we know, we speak out from within through our understanding of language, through our understanding of subject matter. So, first of all, but in order to be a fluent English speaker, in order to enable the students to speak fluently, we have to focus on the components of speaking. What are the components of speaking? Let me write it down. Okay, components of speaking first. Components. Very first component of speaking is pronunciation. Pronunciation. Second one is stress. Third one is intonation. And then grammar, and vocabulary. One, two, three, four, and five. These are the five components of speaking which are very important to be understood well. In order to speak well, in order to teach speaking, we should know all of them. Unless we are perfect in all of this, we have the basic knowledge of all these components, we are not going to be able to teach or speak in English fluently and accurately. So these are the various factors that will make a difference. Pronunciation, the very first one. Let us discuss the very first one. What does it mean by pronunciation? Pronunciation is the way by which we pronounce any word, or by the way we, produce the sound in a particular way. That is called pronunciation. If the pronunciation is not correct, or if any word is mispronounced, then that can carry a totally different meaning, or that can be a big barrier to the communication itself, because whatever is said will not be understood by the listener. So in order to easily communicate, efficiently communicate, words should be pronounced correctly as a first component of uh, the speaking skill. Pronunciation. So there are two features. We call them phonemes, phonemes, and suprasegmental features are there. Suprasegmental features. There are two features of pronunciation as a component of speaking. So this refers to the smallest unit of sound, while this refers to stress, this refers to rhythm, this refers to vocabulary. So this will make up pronunciation. So to know how any word is pronounced is the basic skill required to be able to speak well. So pronunciation plays a very important role. Second is the stress. Now, stress, what does it mean by stress? Stress is a relative emphasis we put, or relative emphasis we make on a certain syllable of any word. It is the relative emphasis on a shortened syllable of any word. Stress also is very important. While speaking, we should know where to stress rightly, which uh, syllable to stress on. That is very important. So it is relative emphasis on a certain syllable of any word, which is also known as word stress. And it is caused by, what is it caused by? It is caused by a number of factors. It is caused by the increased loudness and vowel length. Increased loudness and vowel length. This is one of the property causing stress. And full articulation full articulation full articulation full articulation of vowel and changes in pitch are the properties which cause stress. So stress, to have a sound knowledge of stress also is equally important, even if it is not so much possible for students to learn about stress in detail. At least the teacher should have the basic knowledge of stress, where and on which syllable to stress. Okay, we should give a proper guidance to the students. So it is a relative emphasis on a certain syllable of any word caused by increased loudness of vowel length, particular full articulation of vowel and change in pitch are the properties affecting the stress. Now the third one is the intonation, which is also pretty much like stress itself, but it is the entire variation of speech, entire variation of pitch. Entire variation of pitch while speaking is known as intonation. Entire variation of pitch while speaking is called intonation. There can be different patterns of intonation. How the voice rises and falls as we speak, depending upon the types of sentences, is known as intonation. So there are three patterns of intonations basically. Those three are rising intonation, falling intonation, and mixed, or we call it rising and falling. Intonation. So where are they used? Rising intonation is used more with yes-no questions. In yes-no question sentences, this rising intonation is used. The voice rises in yes-no question. And here in the falling intonation, where do we use them? We use them in WH questions. falling intonations are used. And when our rising and falling intonation patterns are used, these are used when we want to say, when we want to express, uh, express that we do not have idea, we are not sure regarding anything. We have no idea regarding anything. That time we use both mixed rising and falling intonation. As the third component of speaking, intonation also is very and equally important. Now, grammar. This has been, this is the overrated component of speaking, of even writing component. Grammar is the foundation. Grammar is the backbone. Grammar is the backbone. Backbone of language. This gives the idea how words are combined in a correct way to give a proper meaning. If the grammar is not appropriately used, then it carries a totally different meaning. It can be misinterpreted, it can be misunderstood, or it cannot be understood at all. So grammar is very important. Grammar. So it deals with subject, verb, object, and how they agree with each other, and it deals with the tenses, it deals with the question tags and all. We know all the grammar items. So it is very important. Unless we have a sound grammar knowledge, we can't speak correctly. We can't generate correct sentences. That is why grammar also is known as the backbone of language. Now, inappropriate use of it can alter the meaning of spoken text. It can even alter. So we have to have a basic sound foundation of grammar. We have to understand all of these. So we have to teach students the basic things of grammar, and so that they can easily speak and they can use language inside the classroom or outside the classroom whenever they want. It is the fourth component of language or speaking. Now the fifth one is the vocabulary. We're just discussing in short, as we do not have time. We're just discussing in short, and I'm just summarizing the entire course as a whole. Okay, now the last one is vocabulary. Vocabulary is nothing but the range of words that a person knows. Range of words. What are the different types of words we use while speaking? Speaking doesn't happen unless we use the words, unless we speak up the words that we know. So if there is no vocabulary, there is no conversation at all. No vocab, no conversation, no communication. So from this, it is pretty clear that limited vocabularies can prove to be a big or a major barrier in learning. Why do we get stuck while speaking? Why do we struggle for words? Sometimes it is natural to take pauses. Sometimes it's natural to take some time to think. But if it is due to the lack of vocabulary, then we are never going to be again able to continue our speaking or our delivery. So vocabulary is very important. We have to have understood and learned English in various contexts, not just in the school context or classroom context, even at home, inside the kitchen, in the society, during the program, during events, and during so many other things. We have to learn vocabularies related to that. So when we have ample vocabularies, then we can express ourselves more clearly, more explicitly. That is why the fifth component of speaking also is equally important in the same degree. Okay, so limited vocabularies can prove to be a big barrier in learning that can, avoid, that can, help, that cannot help in learning, that can avoid us from learning so many things, that can deprive us from learning so many things. So unless we have good vocabulary, we can't speak well. So, in order to build vocabulary, we have to read as much content as possible. We have to listen to the native speakers. We have to listen to the news delivered in the same language. It is very important. These are the five components of speaking. Now, on moving forward, when we fully understand all of these components, we can then become or dare to speak good English. But at the same time, while conducting various speaking activities, we have some challenges to deal with as well, which are recognized as problems. And what are those problems? Problems of speaking activities. Problems of speaking activities, especially in the school context. What are the problems? And in the context of Nepal, as I already said, that speaking and listening are less prioritized in the context of Nepal according to the course, according to the curriculum. But even then, in reality, we need all of them equally. In fact, we need listening and speaking skill more than reading and writing. So, uh, on enabling and encouraging students to learn, what are the problems of speaking activities? There can be many problems in the context of Nepal. Inhibition, inhibition is the first problem that we come across whenever we talk about problem of speaking activities. Inhibition means hesitation. There is a lot of hesitation, a high degree of hesitation among students to speak in English. They actually fear speaking in English. Why? Because they don't want to be made fun of inside the classroom. That is the kind of culture we have here. When somebody dares to do something good, somebody dares to speak in front of everybody, others make fun, others backbite or even gossip during their presence, so which makes it awkward for the speaker to dare to speak. So inhibition is one of the major factors. Inhibition. And in order to speak, speaking should happen. It is speaking is obligatory in communication or conversation. When students have nothing to say, when they have no idea, then also that proves to be a problem. Nothing to say. To have nothing to say is another problem of speaking activity, of conducting speaking activity in the school or inside classroom. When we have something to say, then we dare to say. When we don't have anything to say, we do not speak. We just remain silent and observe, which can also prove to be another equally responsible barrier for learning. Low participation. Only the talented students are found to be speaking all the time. Low participation or uneven participation. All the students are expected to speak equally and participate in the speaking activities or in all other classroom activities, but this doesn't happen in reality. A very few students participate, especially in the context of Nepal and in the context of English teaching and learning. This is very common, low participation, or almost sometimes there is very negligible participation from the students. This is another problem. Large classroom size. Class size or size of the class also can become a problem, because in the large group, when there are many students inside a classroom, when there are many students confined in a hall, then it becomes challenging for the teacher to be able to teach, speaking in a effective way. It is because There are so many students, so it takes a really long time to give them a few minutes, for all of them to speak. So large class size also is one of the problems, because in Nepal, in some of the schools, we do not have students at all. We only have 4 or 5 students, where there are more teachers than students. But there are some schools where there are much more students, like above 3,000, 4,000, even 8,000 students. In that case, the classroom size is obviously going to be bigger. So this becomes a problem in that context. When the number of students exceed the expected limit, then the class becomes large and it's difficult for the teacher to encourage everybody to participate and give them a proper chance. Multilingual class. Nepal is a multilingual country. So we have students speaking various languages. This can also be a problem. Even Nepali itself is a second language for many, and English happens to be the third language for many community. So that is why multilingual class also is one of the problems in the context of Nepal, in speaking activities and conducting speaking activities. But this is not going to be solved. Even then, other problems can be solved. We have to respect this diversity. We have to parallelly prioritize all of them. But then this is also making a huge difference in learning, in huge difference in the outcome of students, academic outcome of students. Now another one is, if the teacher just focuses on lecture method, if the method is not student centered, if the teachers teach in a traditional way, that becomes one of the problems as well. So having no teaching materials can be one of the problems as well. And use of mother tongue, we can multilingual class, use of mother tongue, especially in the rural areas of the country. We see students, in an excited way using their mother tongue because they feel comfortable to speak in their mother tongue. They do not dare to speak in another language because of so many things. They do not have proper knowledge of the components of speaking, and they have not been taught, they have not been put into practice. So that is one of the reasons. Now, inhibition, all of this are equally important. These are the problems to be taken into account. Okay, how can we solve these problems? All of these problems can be solved in different ways. Let us discuss some possible ways to address them. Some remedial measures are to be put forward as well. Now, solutions. What can be the solutions? We should not just let the problems exist. We have to try to eradicate them as well. Solution can be teaching in a different way, like not just delivering lectures, but making use of teaching making use of teaching materials as much as possible, sticking to student-centered sticking to student-centered techniques. Another is involving the students in group work and group discussion. If they discuss with their friend, they are more comfortable to discuss within the group among friends than with the teacher, than among everybody in the class. So group work is actually the most important among all of the stated solutions. Now, what can be another one? We have to encourage them to speak in the target language, and we have to encourage them to bring themselves forward. Okay, encourage. Making use of teaching materials, student-centered techniques. Okay, and through debate as well. We can tell them to debate on a particular topic. First, we can give the demo ourselves how we debate on any topic, how we start, how we jot down the points, how we argue against the speakers. Okay, so these are the solutions of the existing problems of speaking in the context of Nepal. So we discussed oral skill a bit, and in the next video we will discuss about the stages of teaching speaking. We shall be talking about early stage, controlled conversation stage, and free conversation stage. We'll be discussing about 3 stages in another video. So for today, I expect all of you to jot these points down and learn in detail about all of this. I have just introduced these things to you because the video is going to be long if I keep on describing a single point for a couple of minutes or 3 4 5 minutes. So I don't want the video to be long. That is why I am just helping you introduce, I'm helping you go through the entire curriculum in short period of time, so that you'll get encouraged and then you'll start learning yourself and be successful. So thank you.